Netflix has a lot of good shit on it, but a lot of soggy dog shit too. Without a doubt, though, the worst thing Netflix has is their newest announcement called Cuties. Cuties goes above being just a bad movie. It's like an actual fucking crime. Here's the little Netflix blurb about it, a little Shark Tank pitch to get you invested, make you want to watch it. Amy, 11, becomes fascinated with a twerking dance crew. Hoping to join them, she starts to explore her femininity, defying her family's traditions. Pedophiles everywhere were pumping their fists in excitement. Finally, a movie made just for them. Fucking Dan Schneider must have fallen out of his seat in excitement when he read that synopsis. Here's the French cover, the original, versus the Netflix cover for Cuties. You can immediately tell which one's which, even if there wasn't French on one of them. As you can see, the American version on the right here clearly wants to just focus on hypersexualizing children. Every actress in this movie is actually 11 years old, by the way. Also, that tagline about twerking and femininity, that's on no other piece of media talking about this. It's only Netflix's explanation for the movie. So it focuses only on the twerking. It seems like they only wanted to post this movie on Netflix to try and normalize pedophilia. Now, there's a trailer for this movie, but I'm not going to click on it because I'm not a pedophile and I'm not a fucking idiot. That feels like some kind of trap set up by the FBI where you click on that and you basically speed run onto the sex offenders registry. It's like the old anarchist cookbook shit where if you Google that, you're immediately put on a list. This really does feel like some kind of trap where they're trying to catch as many pedophiles as possible with as little work as possible by just posting this trailer and then just taking everyone's name down that watches it. Or even worse, leaves a like on it. If you leave a like on it, you probably go to jail. It's just so fucking disgusting that this kind of movie would be put on Netflix and advertised in this way. I don't know if the movie's actually even like this, because like I said, this is the only blurb that said anything about 11-year-olds focusing on twerking. So maybe the movie's really not even like that. But I'm not gonna find out. I don't want to find out. It's still fucking disgusting. Netflix has a lot of explaining to do with how they've advertised this movie, because it looks like they only want pedophiles to watch this. This kind of shit just shouldn't be acceptable under any circumstances. And what the fuck is next for Netflix anyway, now that they're trying to open this Pandora's box of pedophilia? Next month, introducing Friend on Netflix. Ralph, a 13-year-old boy, finally gets his big break, landing a major role in a blockbuster movie where he's introduced to Harvey Weinstein. Together the two become inseparable as Harvey Weinstein teaches Ralph how his penis works and how to keep landing roles in Hollywood. Join them on the inspirational journey only on Netflix. It's just fucking terrible stuff, and I'm not trying to give Netflix any ideas, because that actually sounds like something Netflix would put money into at this point. Now, just a little while ago, Netflix released this statement: "We're deeply sorry for the inappropriate artwork that we use for Menomenes." Jeez, I just sound like fucking Doodlebob from SpongeBob. I don't speak French, sorry, I don't know how to say that. Cuties. It was not okay, nor was it representative of this French film, which won an award at Sundance. We've now updated the pictures and description. Yeah, but you see, it doesn't fucking matter, Netflix, because you've already shown us your asshole. You showed us why this is on your catalog because you want pedophiles to watch it. Your marketing was geared towards people that are attracted to children. You made it about twerking. Your cover photo was children twerking in very revealing clothing. Honestly, it's fucking disgusting. And even 4chan doesn't allow that. 4chan came out saying they will not allow cuties content to be posted there. 4chan has better morals than Netflix right now. That's the fucking state of Hollywood. Now, I keep saying Hollywood even though this is a foreign film, but it was completely changed by Hollywood. They totally fucking rebranded it and made it more focused on sexualizing children than the initial shit showcased. Whether or not the movie is actually sexualization of children, I have no fucking clue. But it doesn't matter because Netflix totally rebranded it for pedophiles. They made it like some kind of Willy Wonka's golden ticket to the pedophile factory just for them. It makes no sense why they'd change everything to focus on sexualizing kids other than just to try and normalize that, which is fucking disgusting, terrible, and gross. It's all super fucked up, and what's even more fucked up is just how common this shit is becoming from a lot of different places, like Twitter specifically, with minor attracted persons maps. There's so many people that are trying to make pedophilia seem normal or acceptable, and I really hope we don't actually get to that point because pedophilia isn't acceptable under any circumstances. It's just genuinely fucking not. But the more times I log on Twitter, the more often I'm seeing people saying how wrong it is to discriminate against pedophiles, or you're a bad person if you don't support pedophiles or something. And then you'll have Netflix do some shit like this, which reinforces that idea that pedophilia is normalized now. Get with the times. It's 2020. And it's just absolutely disgusting. Netflix had to have a lot of people okay this when this sexualization of children for cuties was put on their catalog. There had to be a lot of people that looked at that and gave it the green light before that went live. It's not like Netflix can turn around and be like, oh, no, guys, it was actually just one person. It was Chris, the intern. Turns out he's a convicted sex offender, and we just didn't know it. But don't worry, he's gone now. We've promoted him for his work. You know, they can't just like accuse one person of doing this and having it slip through the cracks because it's fucking Netflix. There is an actual department that greenlights all of these things. I know it because I've been declined from it with fucking Hard Turbo. So they decline some shit like Hard Turbo and then put on some pedophilia shit. It's weird and gross. So it's not like there is just a single person behind this. It is all of that department. A huge chunk of people at Netflix saw this description that's talking about 11-year-olds twerking and a poster that sexualizes kids and said, yep, that's going on Netflix, baby. That's going right on the front page. And that is just the most baffling part of all of it. It's just a terrible, terrible, terrible situation. And yeah, that's about it. See ya. In a battle, there's always a winner and a loser. And unfortunately, this time around, we have lost the holy war against Netflix. Netflix recently put the kibosh on password sharing in a move that I thought would be the downfall of the platform since everyone in the world shares a Netflix account with many people. I thought this would just have the entire streaming service circling the drain, but I couldn't have been more wrong. My prediction was more incorrect than the people that thought the world was ending in 2012, because according to the latest data published this week by an analytics firm called Antenna, they've reported that Netflix has seen the biggest spike in subscriber signups since they started tracking that data in 2019. When I first read that report, I legitimately did a Mr. Beast thumbnail of like actual shock, because I was completely convinced that once people were kicked off their Netflix accounts that they were sharing with so many others, they wouldn't pay to sign up again and just shell out big clams for a service that has such a weak catalog. Like, what the fuck is there to even watch on Netflix? Unless you're a huge fan of the Hype House, or Tall Girl 1 and 2 of the Tall Girl cinematic universe, or God help you, Big Mouth. If you watch Big Mouth, consider this an intervention. You need professional help. That show is criminally awful. Like, I just didn't see a reason why people would, fork over big doubloons to re-sign up to Netflix when there's really nothing worth watching on there right now. Aside from the 1 or 2 times a year where they actually do have something good on their platform, like Stranger Things, for example. But that doesn't come around often. That's like a winter solstice, right? Like, you don't need to have Netflix year-round just to watch those 2 decent productions that they introduce. So I was just very surprised that so many people signed up again after getting kicked off. In fact, to go a bit deeper, who remembers the hit series Resident Evil on Netflix? The original production that was an insulting mess to the actual franchise that it was borrowing from? Well, I think that the way that show talks about Umbrella Corporation is really apt for Netflix itself. But instead of Umbrella Corporation creating the T-virus, Netflix is creating the P-virus, because all of their shows are P. Actual fucking urine quality productions that are infecting the viewers into thinking that they need to be paying for the service. You don't. Let me be the light in the darkness here. You don't have to be paying fucking $8, $15, or $20 a month for Netflix now that you've been kicked off of the account that you've been sharing with for the last decade. You got spit in your face from Netflix. You don't have to wipe it off and say, thank you, can I have some more? Out of every major streaming service, aside from jokes like Peacock, Netflix has perhaps the weakest catalog. You do not have to be paying $8, $15, or $20 a month in order to have access to a fucking snooze fest on Netflix. You don't. But we have lost this war. This clearly was a very successful move from Netflix. This worked out extremely well for them. Password sharing on Netflix was more common than the cold, so I just really was under the impression that when you take that away, I think the number was 100 million accounts were password sharing. So when you kick off that many people, I just did not expect such a large percentage of them to come back, like, all happy, and especially not this quickly. Like, they got kicked off and then lickety-split signed up immediately again. So, It really worked out for them, but I wish that it didn't because they've for so long encouraged password sharing, and I really don't like the way that they're going about the crackdown on password sharing. There's definitely better ways that aren't as costly to families that have multiple people across multiple households. You don't have to charge fucking per person, and it's extremely strict on exactly how it all works. I've gone over the specifics of it in a couple of videos before, so I'm not just going to keep repeating myself. I'm just surprised. Like, I'm just out here befuddled at how successful this has been for Netflix. Now, I would like to mention that they have received a lot of cancellations as well. They've seen an increase in cancellations, but the new signups are outpacing those by a wide margin. Netflix received nearly 100,000 daily signups on May 26th and May 27th already, and it's just absolutely popping off for their bottom line right now. So it always sucks to lose, but unfortunately, you just gotta be humble even in defeat. Sometimes you just take a bite of that BLT sandwich. Hold the B and T, it's just a fucking L sandwich. And that's one of those cases here. I do think that this is also going to be wildly detrimental for every other streaming service because on every streaming service, most people are sharing passwords. You know, spoiler alert, everyone is sharing passwords when possible. And now that the Netflix crackdown has been extremely financially successful for the company, I do envision very soon there will be crackdowns on every other platform as well. So password sharing might be a thing of the past. I feel like it's going to be outlawed across the board on streaming services, and that fucking sucks. All I can really hope for now is that the way that the other streaming platforms crack down on password sharing isn't as strict as Netflix. Hopefully there's some wiggle room for families to actually be able to share passwords to some degree, as opposed to charging so much money for a big family or a family that's across multiple households. So that's something we just have to wait and see on, but I do think that's coming, so just put that on your calendar, mark it down for the near future. Rest in peace, password sharing, and yeah, that's about it. So yeah. I've been actively following all of the Netflix updates in regards to their password sharing policy because I always get really interested when a company the size of Netflix makes business decisions that could ultimately lead to its demise. This idea of something being too big to fail, but then failing anyway, is always so interesting, like Blockbuster. Once a household name, but now a household joke. Netflix watched Blockbuster jump off a cliff and said that looked like fun, so why don't we try it? Which is poetic considering Netflix did play some role in the demise of Blockbuster, and now they're making decisions that are very possibly leading them to the same fate. I'm sure all of you know they don't like password sharing anymore. They're waging war on the 100 million password sharers. They're trying to commit a genocide on them. They've made a very strong stance, wiggling their finger, saying, no, 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 no more of that, Buster. They've pumped up their SpongeBob anchor arms and they're busting down your door and removing access to your Netflix account if you're a password sharer. I've already talked about this twice, but it just keeps changing and evolving quicker than a fucking Pokemon. So initially, their plan was restrict access to anyone that shares passwords, where it's only a one household service where you have to be in a primary location in order to access it, and you only get a 7-day grace period while you're traveling to access Netflix. That was as lenient as they got, and they put all of these rules into effect in some Latin American countries, but now they've also put it into effect in Canada. Mudahar recently made a video covering all of this. Here you can see a notice that you receive. A Netflix account is for people who live in the same location. So if you're not a member of the family, or at least a stranger living inside the walls, attic, or basement of someone's household, you won't be able to access their Netflix account anymore. You'll just be kicked off and unable to access it. Now, originally, this was going to be going global, right? But after backlash, they tried to play the it was just a prank bro card and say that this policy wasn't meant to go live on the American services, so when it hit the website as like an upcoming policy change, they tried to backpedal saying, whoa, big oops moment here. That's not happening yet. But then confirmed that it is happening in Latin American countries, and now it's happening in Canada. So you can extrapolate from this that it's likely coming to America very soon. Going to the website, you can see a bit more in detail exactly what the plan is. We've always made it easy for people who live together to share their Netflix account with features like profiles and multiple streams. While these have been hugely popular, they've also created confusion about when and how you can share Netflix. Today, over 100 million households are sharing accounts, impacting our ability to invest in great new TV and films. What's impacting your ability to invest in great new TV and films is common fucking sense. You guys have brain rot at the office and literally greenlight the worst shit imaginable. It is unreal, the low quality of some of your Netflix originals, and you don't even promote half of them. In the last video I made talking about this whole situation, I mentioned Bruise Brothers, which is a show that I think had 10 people watch it, and one of them was Matt, and he said it's the worst comedy he's ever watched in his life. And Netflix tries to bury that under the rug, yet they financed it, right? You are putting money behind projects no one wants, no one hears about, and no one likes. That has nothing to do with the amount of money you have in your piggy bank, because you are shaking your piggy bank like you're trying to make it rain on a stripper. You're just putting it into projects that are bad and doomed for failure. It has nothing to do with your actual financial bottom line. You have plenty of money to invest in good TV and films. You're just not. You're putting it into trash, garbage, and clearly you're not being rewarded for it. And also, talking about the confusion around how you can share Netflix, you slimy weasels, you absolute fucking worms. What a despicable load of horseradish. You used to encourage password sharing. This little blemish is still live on your public Twitter right now. Love is sharing a password. Now, if you want to say that you've completely changed your stance on it, that's one thing. Love is no longer sharing a password. In fact, that's sin. Sharing a password is unforgivable sin, a breaking of the 10 Commandments, and you're going to jail for it. You've changed your mind. That's what you should say, not try and chalk it up to confusion as if you've never encouraged password sharing. You used to, and now you're not. Okay? It's changed. There's not fucking confusion. You're just delusional. You're the crazy one. You're taking crazy pills, not me. I'm not dumb, you're dumb. They continue to announce that it's rolling out in Canada, New Zealand, Portugal, and Spain, then talk about what's coming. So setting primary location, which is the one household system, managing access and devices, which they're saying you can now easily manage who has access to the account, even though that's never really been a pain point or a headache. The only reason Netflix ever got super popular in the first place is because of the convenience and the ease of use. So it's actually just easier to pay for Netflix as opposed to pirate something. So it's never been hard to do that. I don't know why they're advertising it as a new easy service. So that's a weird bit of fluff there. Transferring profile, so people using an account can now easily transfer their profile to a new account, which they pay for. Watch while you travel, so you can still access Netflix when you're on a vacation at a hotel and shit, but it's only for a limited amount of time. It's not forever travel, at least not as I understand it. I don't know why they're leaving it kind of vague there. But then this one is a little interesting. So now you can buy an extra member. So members on our standard or premium plan in many countries, including Canada, New Zealand, Portugal, and Spain, can add an extra member sub-account for up to 2 people they don't live with, each with a profile, personalized recommendations, login, and password for an extra $8 a month per person in Canada, and then adjusting the rates for the other locations. So you're paying a subscription per person per month. And here's just a visual of all the plan features. So premium is clearly the highest tier where you get to purchase membership for 2 other people. And this whole thing is very confusing to me because it seems like there is absolutely no reason to purchase extra members on your account. You're not getting a crazy discount on it. And when you do pay for that extra membership, they're getting their own separate login and password. All you're doing is picking up the bill. So you're paying 2 monthly payments, your account and now theirs. So what the fuck is the point? At that point, you're better off just giving them $10 in the mail and saying, hey, go crazy, go hog wild, make a Netflix account with this. What is the point in paying for that password sharing? And that's the wrong word because you're not even sharing passwords. You're just sharing the embarrassment of paying for Netflix twice, really. The idea, I suppose, is, let's say when this goes live in America, my parents won't be able to use my Netflix account. Well, I can still give them access to it if I'm a premium member by paying the fee for them too. So then I just pick up the bill for both of us and they can still have their own separate Netflix that I'm paying for as opposed to them. So it's not really password sharing, it's just giving you the opportunity to pay for a couple of other people to have access, which I think is just kind of worthless, really. I don't see that being a super popular idea. Though the more I think on it, the more I think there was actual potential with the core concept here. I don't know the exact numbers, but I would imagine the majority of people that are sharing Netflix passwords aren't sharing it with like fucking 10 or 20 people. They're probably sharing it with close friends and family, at least in my experience, that's who's sharing. So that's like 2, maybe 3 people. Like, you know, a divorced family where the kids want access to Netflix at both mom's side and dad's side, and so they share an account to make that easy. They can't do that anymore without paying multiple times, but why not take this idea and expand it like this? You have X amount of free account sharing. So you can designate like 2 family members that can still share your same Netflix account for free. Nothing changes there. But then if you want to extend it to like 4 people, 5 people, whatever, then you pay. So then you'd pay like an additional $8 to get like 2 more people that you can share it with. So I feel like that'd be a much more lenient way of monetizing in a very similar fashion that wouldn't immediately just be like fucking going crazy with it and making it super brutal. The motivation behind this idea is clearly to monetize the 100 million people currently accessing their service for free. However, I compare this decision to when OnlyFans spent 12 hours saying that they're going to be removing adult content from their site, which would instantly kill OnlyFans. They eventually had that eureka moment where the light bulb flipped on in their head and they're like, wait, if we remove porn from OnlyFans, we're going to be buried 6 feet under. We're fucked. So then they reversed it. I still don't understand exactly what happened during that time period at OnlyFans headquarters. They must have been hit by like some kind of cosmic stupid beam that reset their IQ to like 3. And they're like, oh, OnlyFans is not a porn site anymore. Now it's going to be about cooking and sports and shit. Or whatever else they were trying to say. Maybe they got confused on the date and thought it was April 1st, I don't know. But that was still one of the most comically awful business decisions I've ever seen, and now Netflix is trying to compete with that by taking 100 million users away from their own service and expecting them to come back groveling at their feet with money in their hand in order to access the worst Netflix original content imaginable. Slapping 100 million people and then still expecting them to bend over and goatsy for you so you can fuck them financially is just an absurd notion. I'm sure some people that are kicked off will pay for it going forward, but I think the vast majority won't because there's so much competition, so many other places they can go, and also this isn't like some invaluable service people can't be without. They'll probably just not bother in the first place, especially considering how weak and winky-dinky the catalog is, full of stinky Netflix originals with almost none of them being good for 2023's upcoming slate. I looked at the docket for the upcoming Netflix originals this year, and there's only like 2 that stood out as potentially good, which I feel like is the primary reason Netflix users even have an account is for the originals, because if you're just on Netflix for like some of the old classic shows that are still amazing bangers, you can still find them elsewhere for cheaper than your subscription model right now. And since this is becoming wildly inconvenient for the 100 million users that were password sharing, most of them, I imagine, will start turning to piracy. This will incentivize piracy to pop off once again. So they're just not going back to Netflix, at least not a super meaningful number of them. That's my prediction. But yeah, that's the latest update on Netflix ruining their own business model. So yeah, that's about it. So yeah, let's start with this. I'm sure most of you probably didn't even know this came out. I didn't know. My parents told me that it was actually released. We talked about it on stream last week or something. Basically, Netflix threw a desperate Hail Mary. They did a real-life Squid Game in the same vein as Mr. Beast, but did it so much worse and cheesier. So it's out. They're way too late to this trend. Like, this is way tardy to the party. This would be like if they made a reality TV show about the best fidget spinner. Like, it's, I think, missed the mark entirely on, like, hitting while the iron's hot. And my parents and I watched the first episode tonight. It fucking sucks. So they use, like, real people. It was an open casting call. People signed up. They go here and they play the Squid Games in real life. It's terrible. Like, if they had just played the games and made a show out of it, it'd be whatever, it'd be forgettable, but I guess mindless popcorn entertainment for a game show. They don't. They try and interject drama into it, a la the actual show, and it falls so flat. So it really feels like they instructed all the people to be as fake and over the top as possible. So, where do I even begin? So they do interviews with all the people. Well, not all the people, a lot of the people. And every single one of them has to have their own quirky personality. So there's one guy who's like, sympathy is a weakness. Like, he's speaking like an anime character. And it's right before red light, green light. Spoilers, he makes it through red light, green light. And then he's like, yeah, I'm pretty confident. God made me this way. Why would I want to be anybody else? You know, people go through struggles, but I don't complain about it. You go through struggles that I went through. The difference between you and me is I'm not whining. Like, that kind of shit. It's fucking terrible. Like, it is insufferable. And it's clear that these people are instructed to say things like this, to be abrasive, to be over the top. Like, a girl was doing an interview and she's like, my name actually means all-knowing. Which is accurate because I can see the future. And then she kind of goes in on that a little bit. It's clear they are trying very hard to put some kind of personality into just this very vapid concept of just doing the Squid Games IRL. It's fucking awful. My parents and I ended up just making fun of it the entire time. And it is so phony. I think most of it is scripted. Like, I really do. I think the vast majority of what was filmed here had to be scripted to some level. Because there's like this test where after red light, green light, they take two people that just happen to be in the kitchen peeling carrots together and, chit-chatting. And they're like, you two, you have the choice. Give one player an advantage in the next game or eliminate somebody. And it's like this crescendo of music. Like, what the fuck are they going to do? Are they going to execute somebody? Oh my god. It's the biggest decision of their life. So then they're like debating the morality back and forth as they're peeling carrots, and they're like, they do like 15 different YouTuber thumbnail faces, and like 45 different camera cuts. Eventually they decide to eliminate somebody. And the person they eliminate is number 200. And what's special about number 200 is they had given him his own little brief character arc like 45 seconds before where he's like, hey, I think his name was Mati? I think. And he's like, I just want to make a lot of friends here. I want to meet people. I want to have a lot of fun. Maybe get a good group together and just meet everyone. And then 45 seconds later, the test was they choose to eliminate him. And I swear to God, I'm not exaggerating. When they eliminate him, they make a big announcement. The testers have decided to eliminate contestant, and then they spend about a full minute like flipping through numbers to build suspense, and all the people are instructed to be like on edge as possible. So you have people like literally crying. And then they say 200 is eliminated. And I shit you not, the entire bunk bed dormitory erupts into like hysteric fits of crying. Like, there's one guy who starts jumping up and down going, no! No! For a stranger they don't even know. Like, they don't know this guy. It's a totally fucking random guy that just got eliminated. He never even met him. And the whole dormitory is doing this. They start hugging him. They start crying. Then they do a post-game interview with him, and he's like, I wanted to win this. My family needs a better life. This was all for my family, and now I'm gone. Like, it's all so fake. It's so bad. It's so terrible. And that's just episode 1. Like, oh my god. I thought it was just going to be, like, a forgettable throwaway Squid Game, parody-ish. Well, not parody, they just do the Squid Game. But holy fuck, Netflix went hog wild with making it as insufferable as possible. It combines every single awful trope about game shows and rolls it into a Squid Game skin. Jesus Christ, it's bad. It's so bad. Almost ruined my whole Thanksgiving. Oh, and I hate the way it's edited, too. When they're playing red light, green light, it is impossible to keep up with anything happening, because they'll, like, jump forward in time and then jump backwards sometimes. So people that are, like, running and then they stop, like, they'll just get fully eliminated, because what actually happened is they actually were moving 30 seconds in the future, but they showed that clip after they were eliminated. Like, it's all over the place. It is a fucking mess. Oh my god, I hate it. I hated it. I couldn't imagine watching all 5 episodes. And then, of course, they had to instruct the people to pretend like they don't know what's coming, so when Game 2 happens to be the cookie thing, they're all caught off guard, like, what is this? No, wait, you don't want the umbrella, because you see the umbrella has some very hard-to-follow points to it, that you don't want that. Oh no! How could this happen? You think it was done on the cheap? No, that's what my dad and I were so surprised with. They spent oodles of doubloons to produce this. The sets are incredible. They matched everything 1-to-1. This is a very expensive game show they put on. And fuck, it sucks. It only gets worse. Yeah, I just don't think I can stomach more of it. It's not even fun bad. Like, I'm kind of making it sound more fun bad than it was. It was miserable. It was, like, I couldn't even look at the screen half the time. Like, with the shit that was going on, it was so phony baloney. Why did they copy? It was to try and capitalize off the success of Squid Game, but it's so late to it that nobody cares anymore. Plus, every YouTuber ever already did it. Oh, yeah, sorry. So that was all a prerequisite to this here. The contestants, who again were like normal people that were instructed to act a certain way during the interviews, I believe, they are now claiming that they suffered injuries from it. So hypothermia and nerve damage. And after watching episode 1, I can kind of see how they might have had that happen. Hypothermia, no clue. But nerve damage, a lot of the contestants in the first game adopted this strategy where they would sprint really fast and then dive. Like just full-on dolphin dive like it's Call of Duty. And just eat shit. Literally just eat shit and like penguin slide on the ground as they're skidding across it in order to like stop moving entirely. So I bet there were some real injuries here with people trying some ridiculous strategies. Thanks to Tier 1 sausage. But as for the hypothermia, don't know where that comes from yet. Maybe the dormitory wasn't kept at a proper temperature. I really don't know. A British personal injuries law firm is representing 2 unnamed players who say they suffered hypothermia and nerve damage while shooting in cold conditions in the UK. Oh, the contestants' allegations concern their experience shooting the show's opening game, Red Light, Green Light. Wait, that's the one I was just talking about. Fire. Yeah, that's it. I imagine that's where most of the injuries would have come from. People were going crazy on their strategies there. Those tactics were nuts. The game was filmed at Cardington Studios, a former Royal Air Force base in Bedford, during a cold snap in Britain, and Netflix confirmed at the time that 3 of the 456 players required medical attention. Express Solicitors, which specializes in no-win, no-fee claims, said its clients risked their health by having to stay motionless for long periods during the shoot as they attempted to stay in the competition. Wait, what do you mean for long periods? There was a 5-minute time limit, unless, of course, that was all fake too, which it probably was. That just reminded me, another thing during the Red Light, Green Light, they try so hard to interject drama into this fucking show. There is a girl who, during Red Light, Green Light, stops in like a squatted position, and then they interview her, so that she's giving her inner monologue, and she's like, I can't believe I stopped squatted, what was I thinking? I don't know if I can hold on long enough, but I have no choice. I have to. I can't lose now. I need this. I can't. And then she's like, but I'm losing it. I give up. And then she just sits down and loses. Even though it was only like, since there's a timer there, assuming the timer's accurate, she only had to hold that squatted position for like 7 or 8 seconds. Yet she went through like this entire monologue, this entire fucking speech about how difficult the conditions were of just sitting in like a semi-squatted position for a while. Well, a while. 7 seconds. And then she's like, it's too much! Bang! And gives up. Contestants thought they were taking part in something fun, and those injured did not expect to suffer as they did. Now they've been left with injuries after spending time stuck in painful stress positions in cold temperatures. I really do wonder how long they had them out there for. Because assuming that the game was real, which I guess it wasn't, well, I mean, like, the game actually happened as it was supposed to, there's only a 5-minute time limit. So it couldn't have gone too much longer than that if they actually just played it out like a normal competition. But the whole thing is so fucking fake. So I'm guessing they might have been out there for hours to get the shots they wanted. I just skimmed through the Squid Game show and holy fuck. Oh no, I'm not exaggerating. It is awful. It is so bad. Oh man, yeah. It was terrible. I don't know why they even bothered. It would have been better if they just let them play out the Squid Game stuff, because at least then it would have been at least somewhat entertaining as just a game show. But here it's like this pseudo-drama that is horribly done. It was a big waste of time. But I'd be lying if I said I wasn't somewhat interested in watching episode 2. It ends on the weakest cliffhanger imaginable. And that's just almost impressive to me. They're choosing their shapes for the cookie game, and the cliffhanger is he going to go to the umbrella, or is he just going to let himself get eliminated? Netflix really embarrassed themselves this week with their whole anti-password sharing stance where they were going to be dropping the iron curtain on everyone that shares a password, kicking off roughly 100 million users in order to force them to sign up in order to access Netflix. A very strict set of rules were revealed on their website where you would now have to always be logging in every 31 days from the primary household, and anything else would be treated as treasonous, and you'd be sent straight to jail, in prison for life, because you shared a Netflix password. I'm exaggerating the terms a little bit, but that's basically them in a nutshell. Nobody liked it. This is one of those things where every single human being on the world, despite all of our differences, we can come together, form a big circle around the bonfire that is the Netflix stock that would have went up in flames had they gone through with that idea. But it seems like they've backpedaled on it, and just like me when I'm wiping my ass and the toilet paper breaks and my fingers touch my butthole, it was a big oops moment, they're claiming. They're saying that they never meant to publish those terms about the anti-password sharing, that system is not going live as of right now, and they've deleted it from their website, claiming it was all an error. I don't know if I believe them, but to me, this feels like an example of one of the few times bullying actually works for a greater good, where a giant fucking multi-billion-dollar company just got bullied into getting rid of a completely dog-shit proposal. But make no mistake, soldiers, the war has not been won. This victory was just a small battle, a simple scuffle, because Netflix has made it very clear they are 100% cracking down on password sharing, but I think with all of the pushback after this announcement came out, they're just going to go back to the drawing board on how to lightly do it, a little less cutthroat, because they fucking slapped everyone. What they were proposing was brutal, with absolutely no wiggle room for anyone or anything. Now, I did go over all this on stream, but I'll briefly mention that they did say that this is currently in effect in some Latin American countries as a test, so they're kind of guinea pigging other territories before bringing it to the States. And I guess this could potentially have been them dipping their toes in the water, but it was a little too hot, so they pulled their toes out real quick, saying it was an error. But if you want my opinion, and by no means am I an expert, I'm just a local fucking idiot guy, I think Netflix's primary concern would be making their catalog stronger, because out of all the main players in the streaming space, aside from Peacock, which is legitimately a joke of a service, they have the weakest catalog. Watching their originals is about as painful as watching your girlfriend cheat on you. They just don't have anything that makes it worth it to sign up. It's enough to keep people that are currently signed up there, and the people that are already password sharing there, because they already have it, but it's just not good enough to bring in new, subscribers, I don't think. So when you kick off the 100 million people and you keep the catalog as winky-dinky shitty as it is, they're not going to just turn around and sign up, because there's nothing on there that they really want to watch or need to watch. And again, it's just going to incentivize piracy, even if there is a couple that they want to watch from Netflix, because they do have a couple good originals, of course. They're not all bad. It's just majority of them, I would say, are pretty bad. Because Netflix has this big problem with just throwing money at everything for no reason, it feels like. Things that you've never even heard of and things that they don't even bother to promote themselves. How many of you have heard of the show Bruise Brothers? It's a Netflix original comedy show. Matt calls it the worst show he's ever watched in his life. I didn't even bother to watch it past the first 30 minutes. And yet that's a Netflix original they put a lot of money behind. They just have so many of these things that not even they're promoting as their original catalog, and they're putting tons of money into it. So they're losing a lot on that, and it's not good enough to keep people wanting to subscribe to Netflix. So if you want those 100 million people to maybe consider subscribing, give them a better catalog, and don't just cold turkey cut them off. There's definitely better ways of handling it if that's the goal. But anyway, I'll play some of the clips now where I go a bit deeper into the whole thing. Yeah, we can talk about Netflix. So it's only been 24 hours since the news broke that Netflix was going to be slapping everyone off of shared accounts, password sharing, illegal, you're going to jail for life, and you're going right to hell. It's a sin that's unforgivable. Bah humbug, Christmas is ruined, don't care if your parents are divorced, you're not sharing accounts across households. It's always going to have to be one primary location, watch something every 31 days to refresh it, and we're gonna let you suckle from our bosom and get 7 days of travel. But then you'll have to come back and refresh that at the main household. So that news broke. Obviously, everyone's upset. Terrible decision. That is, according to their estimation, 100 million people password share. So that's 100 million people that they just kicked off. I don't know how in their Silicon Valley rotted minds they thought that that would somehow lead to like an uptick in subscribers. It won't. At least not anything meaningful, I don't think. But anyway, everyone's shitting on it. Everyone's throwing tomatoes, saying boo, boo, bad, boo, Netflix, boo, not good, yucky, stinky. You guys stink. And then today, according to a couple sources, they backpedaled on all of it, saying that it was posted in error. Now, I can't find any official statement from them outside of like these sources that just say they told their publication that it was an error. So I don't even know if it's 100% true or not that they're trying to backpedal on it. But if that is, that's a pretty pathetic way of doing it. That's like actually a child. Like when a kid sends a text message to their crush like, hey, I like you, and they don't respond in 15 minutes. And then they're like, oh, haha, whoa, this is so embarrassing. That was my friend that sent that. That wasn't me. That was an accident. Like, that is 100% like the Netflix play here. Oh, whoa, this is weird. We didn't mean any of this. How did that even get out there? Oh, no, that's just an accident. Obviously, they made a very strong statement last year about shutting down the password sharing. So they are going to do it, but I guess the pushback on this one was too big, so they're calling it a mistake now. So I don't know. I'm a little confused, like, on the particulars here. On what exactly they're trying to fucking do. They saw everyone canceling and panicked. So their stock did drop, but not that much since this isn't fully in effect yet. So they did have a bit of a... Why didn't their stock just come up? Oh, I'm in news. So they did have a bit of a stock drop. About 1%. Not anything huge. For a brief time yesterday, a Help Center article containing information that is only applicable to Chile, Costa Rica, and Peru went live in other countries, the spokesperson said, adding, we have since updated it. So that was their excuse for all of it. So it's something that they're rolling out in several Latin American countries to test it before being worldwide. Yeah. Well, they're just at this point where they think people need Netflix. But that's just not the reality of the situation. There's so many other streaming services, and even if they just want your originals, they'll just pirate it. If they can't share the account, it becomes far more convenient for a lot of people to just start pirating. Everyone knows how to torrent. I don't know why they're pretending that they don't know about that. This is just going to be something to reinvigorate the Pirate Bay at that point. If it works, other streaming services will do it. Yeah, I mean, I guess if this does turn out well for them, we'd see this extended across the other ones. Netflix has finally followed through on their worst idea yet. And no, I'm not talking about renewing Big Mouth for another season. It's an idea even worse than that. It's blocking password sharing. So from now on, anyone that doesn't live in your house, inside your walls, inside your own imagination, will no longer be able to have a Netflix profile using your account. What does this mean for Netflix? Well, it means that they're going to see a drastic decline in subscribers, I imagine, because they fail to realize that this isn't some kind of must-have item. It's not some inelastic good that everyone needs to own. It's a luxury, and it's an expensive one, and it's a catalog of mostly dog shit. More like net shits, am I right? So if they can't share an account with someone that's already paying, it's not like that person's going to go out and subscribe to Netflix. Their catalog's not strong enough for that. They'll just go to a different service or they'll start pirating. So I imagine once this fully goes into effect, Netflix stock price will be flushed straight down the shitter and just sink to the depths of hell. It's going to collapse. It's going to be a bigger jump scare than the time Bilbo Baggins transformed and got angry at Frodo in the first Lord of the Rings movie. Now let's take a peek under this hood here and see what Tow Mater has cooked up for us. So this is the plan on how they're going to enforce it. Netflix accounts are still shareable, but only within one household. Thus, they're not shareable, it's just one house has access to it on X number of devices depending on how much you pay per month. It's very misleading, it's not fucking shareable. It's about as shareable as a toilet in my house. Yeah, you can come over and use it, but I can't take that toilet to any of my friends' places. So to ensure that your device is associated with your primary location, Netflix is now asking users to connect to the Wi-Fi at your primary location, open the Netflix app or website, and watch something at least once every 31 days. So this is their safeguard. Within a 31-day period, you have to log in on the primary location Wi-Fi and watch a program. Otherwise, you're blocked. Can you still share Netflix with someone who doesn't live with you? As a big fat fucking no. Accounts are only meant to be used within one household. Netflix will prompt users who try to sign into your account elsewhere to sign up for their own account instead and block their access until they do. Netflix will not begin automatically charging account holders whose information is used outside of their homes. Can other users on Netflix accounts save their profiles? Yes, Netflix offers users a profile transfer feature that will allow them to migrate their show recommendations, watch history, and more to their own account if they decide to create one. This will give password sharers the opportunity to preserve their profile if they sign up for their own Netflix account. Legitimately, probably the last thing people give a fuck about. I just can't imagine someone sweating profusely. Oh, geez, they just cracked down on password sharing. Okay, God, I'll make another account quick. Oh, but what about my profile, my watch history? Oh my God, I might lose it. Oh, no, no, no. Oh, good. Okay, I get to keep that. What's going to happen in 9 out of 10 cases, I imagine, is everyone that loses access to their account because they're not part of the primary household, they're just going to go to a different service or start pirating. It's 2023. Everyone knows how to torrent shit. It's like this industry just forgot about that whole piracy boogeyman. You wouldn't download a car, would ya? One of the main reasons streaming popped off so hard and actually did take a big chunk out of piracy is because it was just more convenient, easier, and quicker to pay money every month to have access to the content as opposed to torrenting it. So they just offered convenience for money more so than like great content, because a lot of the originals suck fuck. You just released Witcher Blood Origin, for example, on Netflix. You're not really keeping people like by the balls in a stranglehold because your originals are so great. There are some bangers, of course, but that's really not the primary reason. It was just convenient, and it was easier and quicker than torrenting. But now you're going to have a ton of people that lose access. According to Netflix estimations, 100 million users worldwide are using the service through the login credentials of someone else. So after this bomb drops here, after the nuke is deployed, where do you think those 100 million users are going to go? Because it's not to your website to sign up, at least not the majority of them. It's anywhere else, and a lot of it's going to just be straight up piracy. I don't know how they couldn't foresee that. I imagine that's going to be the reality of the situation, especially with how cutthroat this all appears to be. So can you still use Netflix while traveling? Signing into Netflix outside of your home may lead to the device in use being blocked from Netflix, but they have a workaround. Travelers who want to use Netflix on hotel, smart TV, company laptop can request a temporary code from the service when signing in. This will give them access to their account for 7 consecutive days. Wow, what saints. So you get 7 days of using your Netflix account outside of your own home. And then you have to come back to the headquarters and touch the base to refresh it at your primary location, otherwise you're fucking blocked. So God forbid you have a vacation that lasts more than 7 days, because you're shit out of luck if you wanted to watch Netflix during that time. And also, if you're someone that likes to at least have a Netflix account shared between households, like let's say parents get divorced and they still would like the kids to have access to their accounts across the 2 households, well, you're fucked. Under no circumstances can a Netflix account exist outside of the primary household for more than 7 days. So it's always going to need to be individually paid for, no matter what, it seems. So, pretty brutal. They're not pulling any punches with this protocol. And God forbid you make any mistake like not watching something within 31 days, because even if you're in your own household, shit can just get blocked, it sounds like. If your device has been blocked incorrectly, you'll need to contact Netflix in order to get it unblocked. That sounds really nice, easy, and convenient. Contact the fucking support hotline at Netflix, which is an absolute goddamn disaster. All of these big company support lines are complete trash. So, God forbid you forget within the 31 days, or you accidentally stay in a vacation for 7 days and 30 minutes and now you're over the quota and you're blocked on there. Like, there's no wiggle room here at all. And then you have to contact Netflix hotline, which is a fate worse than death. So, that sucks. And then you can get a real nice peep at the prices down there. There's basic with ads for $7 a month. That sounds great. Just go ahead and cuck me. I'm paying $7 and I still get fucking ads on your service? Wow. Sign me the fuck up. That sounds amazing. Then there's basic with $10 a month, no ads, only one device still. Standard at $15.50 per month for 2 devices, and then premium at $20 a month. So clearly they're expecting some kind of huge drop off in the amount of subscribers here, which is of course going to be detrimental to the overall health of the company. So the prices are supposed to reflect that. They're hoping to make it up in this area. But I don't see it offsetting the large amount of people that will just not be signing up once they lose access. Again, the Netflix originals aren't strong enough to keep people hooked, and everyone knows how to torrent shit in 2023. If they were really desperate to see the originals, they'd probably just fucking pirate it. And I don't know how they could be so delusional that they've convinced themselves that the hit they're going to take from this is negligible in the long run to the amount of subscribers they'll gain. I just don't see them gaining any meaningful amount. You're kicking them out and spitting in their face. Why are they coming back? Most of the people that use Netflix probably signed up during COVID when there was nothing else to do. But now, once you kick them out, it's not like they're that desperate for that kind of entertainment anymore. They'll just do other shit in their downtime. And especially after you fucking use and abuse them here with this new system and the prices, I just don't see it going over well. You can already see the response is overwhelmingly negative, even from like the ultimate consumers that just fucking love consuming everything. Even they're calling this out, talking about how this is finally just going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back, that they're going to cancel Netflix. So they're losing their pay piggies as well. So no one likes this, no one at all. And I'm sure Netflix won't like this 6 months from now. That's my prediction. I guess I could be totally wrong, but I guess we'll see. That's about it. So yeah. I didn't think it was possible for Netflix to sink any lower than the Resident Evil or live-action Cowboy Bebop show, but somehow they found a way to go even further beyond the Super Saiyan 3 of dog shit. Against all the odds, against science and against God himself, Netflix found a way to dig deeper than the deepest pit of hell to announce a show so foul that even Satan weeps. This isn't satire, it's not April Fools. With a straight face, they announced a live-action Yu Yu Hakusho adaptation. They can't keep getting away with it. This has to be a crime at some point. We have to hold them accountable. They are digging up graves and fucking the corpse right in front of us. This one is extremely painful for me because Yu Yu Hakusho is peak anime to me. This was one of, like, the big ones for me growing up. I even still own the goddamn Dark Tournament Saga on DVD. I never even opened it because I cherished it so much. So you can imagine how upset I was when I saw the announcement. This news was sadder than the ending to Marley and Me. I felt like I was losing a friend. Or I guess more like I felt like I was watching a friend being held at gunpoint. And they were, like, trying to ransom, you know, like, hey, subscribe to Netflix or Yu Yu Hakusho gets it. I'm like, no, please let him go. Just a boy. He doesn't deserve it. It doesn't make any sense why they keep doing this. I don't understand. This is like straight out of SpongeBob. How many times do you have to teach you this lesson, old man? All of Netflix adaptations absolutely blow ass. They're all fucking atrocious. It always ends in failure. The live-action Cowboy Bebop, absolute catastrophe. Resident Evil, more like Degrassi meets The Walking Dead meets The Dumpster, because it was fucking trash. They also have a live-action One Piece around the corner, which I can't really opine on since it hasn't come out, but I can't imagine it's going to be successful, and now a live-action Yu Yu Hakusho. Why? When they adapt these shows, excluding One Piece since that hasn't come out yet, so I don't know for sure, but like Cowboy Bebop and Resident Evil, they are just not faithful. Like, they take so much creative liberty that they mutilate the property to something unrecognizable, and they do it proudly. They don't even bother trying to get the characters or the story or even basic elements of it to translate to the live action. So why adapt it in the first place? What do you accomplish there? All you do is piss off the built-in fan base, and you lose interest from people that don't know the franchise because the production here isn't good enough to stand on its own 2 legs. You borrowed a name from a popular franchise and did a shitty job of adapting it, so you lose that fan base, And since it's a shitty adaptation, you lose people that don't even know the franchise in the first place because it's just bad. I also don't understand why they keep putting anime in their crosshairs here. I feel like the Netflix higher-ups just peruse their teenage daughter's Tumblr pages to see what's popular and base their future projects off that. Oh, it looks like anime is really killing it. Let's just go through like beloved anime and start ruining it. That should work for us. It just doesn't compute. I can't process the thinking here. Historically, all live-action anime adaptations have been horrible, except for like a few. The one that pops into my head right away is Alita Battle Angel, but that was also a $200 million budget over the course of many years to make that masterpiece, and it absolutely slapped. But I promise you, Netflix isn't committing that big nut-busting budget to the live-action Yu Yu Hakusho. They probably committed like 10 grand in a Walgreens membership. Just looking at the picture here, it just looks like someone did a fun Photoshop project that Netflix slapped their logo on. Now there's no trailer to like fully judge it on, but just the concept alone is awful. Yu Yu Hakusho, the anime and manga for that matter, ended over 20 years ago. Why are we doing this now? They also teased what the core cast is going to look like in live action, so you have Yusuke, Kurama, Kuwabara, and Hiei, and it's not even to like cosplay level. And again, that's just the problem with going live action with an anime. You can't really translate an anime character to human beings because then it just looks goofy and silly and it just doesn't usually work. And you know what else isn't working? Netflix in general. Netflix is actually just dwindling in popularity. It's been hemorrhaging subscribers, making terrible business decisions, and the stock plummeted recently, but it's been recovering a bit. But I think that's solely because of Stranger Things, but now once people finish that, what do they have left? What do they have to watch on Netflix now? Fucking nothing. Actual dust. The majority of Netflix catalog just isn't good. And then the majority of shows that Netflix themselves produce just aren't interesting. They're not fun to watch. You'd have more fun taking the SATs again than watching a Netflix original. They have a couple bangers like Stranger Things, but once you finish Stranger Things, what do you have left? A barren wasteland. Netflix is like the Fallout universe of streaming. Just empty apocalyptic nothingness. And then the occasional glimmer of hope with a show like Stranger Things. With a show like The Punisher. God rest its soul, canceled too early. But like they occasionally have some great shows on there, but it's very few and far between, and I really do think that is contributing heavily to people abandoning it. It's starting to throw it to the side. Of course, a lot of it's just a natural loss of subscribers to the service because so many people signed up during COVID lockdowns, but now that lockdowns are over, those people are just starting to cancel things like Netflix since they're just too busy. But I also think a large contributing factor is just a shit catalog. They don't have classic shows anymore because all of the great shows they used to have got poached by other streaming services, and their originals just aren't strong enough to keep anybody hooked on the service. So people just leave it behind. And I really think Netflix is in a downward trajectory here, and hopefully they figure it out, but this is not a good sign if they just announced live action Yu Yu Hakusho. It demonstrates a clear lack of understanding of the problem. Nobody wants Netflix adaptations of their favorite properties because they ruin it every time. They bastardize it. They parade it through the streets tarred and feathered. By the time Netflix releases the adaptation, what we get is just an insult, a slap in the face. Nobody is asking for Netflix to take properties and adapt them for a Netflix original. And I don't think there's anyone in the world that wants live action anime. I don't think there's ever really been a huge community of anime enthusiasts that are like, can't wait for the live action, this needs the live action right now. Nobody wants it. Nobody. And yet for some reason they keep trying live action anime. And it looks like they're going to continue to do this till the end of time. Until they finally run out of money and scratch their head wondering where it all went wrong. Dumping all their budget into a live action anime adaptation of fucking Gurren Lagann next. You know, it doesn't make sense. And it's upsetting to see that because Netflix is very near and dear to me. Of course, being the first major streaming service that I ever subscribed to. I even got my wiener touched by a girl one time when I was watching VHS horror movies with her. whatever that series was called. I think it was just called VHS. Netflix used to have all of the goofiest stuff, but also all the best stuff too. Great memories with the platform, and now it's just a shell of what it used to be. There used to be a time not that long ago where pretty much any show you wanted to watch, Netflix would have it. But now, anytime you search for a show like, say, Courage the Cowardly Dog, you'll search it up and it'll say, we know you want Courage, we don't have that shit, that's somewhere else. And you'd be like, okay, so they don't have Courage. And you scratch your chin like, alright, well, how about Adventure Time? I mean, that was like the most popular cartoon back in the mid-2000s, surely they have that. Type it up. Oh, you wanted Adventure Time? No, you're on Netflix, we don't have that, absolutely not. So you throw your hands up, you're desperate, like, oh, fuck, what do they have? How about Friends? What about Friends? I mean, like, every streaming service in the world has Friends. I imagine it's here. You type it in, nope, not here either. It's just baffling how weak the selection is on Netflix. And they also greenlight the most awful ideas ever, like Cuties. Jesus Christ. Like, they actually put on the worst ideas imaginable and put money behind it as a Netflix original. And there is no better example of that than Cuties, which honestly should have had Netflix thoroughly investigated for that shit. Absolutely disgusting. Netflix is just making all of the worst decisions over the last couple years or so, and it doesn't seem like they're getting it at all. Netflix originals are still synonymous with garbage, and they keep raising like the subscription prices, trying to crack down on password sharing, and then they recently sacked their entire animation department. Oh, we're losing money. Probably those fucking animators' fault. For no reason. Like, they don't understand. And it's fucking upsetting. And now they're taking a property that I love, Yu Yu Hakusho, and most likely are going to ruin it. If this show ends up being good, I will be beyond surprised. I will be beyond shocked if this show is even somewhat redeemable, even somewhat enjoyable. I would be elated, honestly. But anyway, I just wanted to talk about this, and that's about it. So yeah. Today I did something that I was pretty sure I wasn't going to enjoy. And I think taking these kind of risks is important for growth, where you step outside of your comfort zone and try something new, even if you're convinced you're not going to like it. I did that today. I cannonballed into the swimming pool of yuckiness and did something rather foul. Now, this isn't anything huge. It's not like I was some kind of brave, courageous warrior that really put it all on the line today to try something new. I didn't go hog wild and wacky like sticking my dick in a gas station glory hole or anything. I watched a show that I was very sure I was probably going to dislike. I asked myself, how bad could Netflix's lowest rated original be? And that show is The Witcher Blood Origin. Right now it has a 32% on Rotten Tomatoes with a 13% audience score. It was also lower in the critics' side. It used to be down to like 16%, but then I guess some glowing reviews came scooting in there, maybe even paid reviews, I have no idea. And it's not like I really put a whole lot of stock into Rotten Tomatoes scores, by the way. Rotten Tomatoes gives Big Mouth a 100% every single season except for one. And Big Mouth is the worst thing humanity's created since the Brazen Bull torture device. I swear, watching Big Mouth is up there with being waterboarded. It's just a cruel and unusual punishment, and yet it gets rewarded every season on Rotten Tomatoes with a perfect score. It's mind-blowing. But now I'm getting off on a tangent. The point is, I don't put a whole lot of faith in Rotten Tomatoes as like a reviewing source, but The Witcher Blood Origin has been shit on across the board from everyone, and I wanted to see just how bad it was, because I wrote this off immediately, as did everyone else, because it proudly disregards the source material that it's supposed to be borrowing from. It uses the Witcher IP, and then wipes its ass with it. So this is a spin-off story. It's a prequel to The Witcher. It's set about 1200 years before the events of The Witcher, and it's not based on anything, and I don't typically get upset about that. I think it's fine if you want to take a universe and then tell your own original story in there. That's fine, but it always has to at least pay respect to the source material, something that Blood Origin fails to do on any level whatsoever. And it also has to at least fit and make sense in the universe, like justify its existence. Why is it there? And does it play by the universe's rules? Well, across the board here, the answer is pretty much no. Like, this feels like it was a complete nothing sandwich that they decided to serve up. I don't really get what the point was. There's a couple of moments where I was entertained. Like, I'm not going to pretend like the entire thing was this pile of dog shit. but on the whole, it really was worthless, like a waste of time. Now, I want to be clear here because I'm sure if you just heard what I said there and you've seen the show, you probably raised an eyebrow really high, like, in entertainment, enjoyment, in Witcher Blood Origin, did we watch the same show? Let me explain, because now I need to defend myself, because there's almost nothing to like about it, except for one thing: the mindless goofiness to its action. When there is action in Blood Origin, it's about as mindless as it can possibly get. And when the rest of the show is as stale as the goldfish that are stuck in between my couch cushions, it's at least refreshing when something, anything at all happens. Because the show puts you to sleep. The show gives you like this, like almost hypnosis of boredom. Like, I swear to God, half the time when I was watching this show, the generic nature of everything and the convolution of its messy plot would have me passing out like it was a drug overdose. And then they'd have their goofy action come on and it was like this little hit of Narcan. I'm not trying to defend the action sequences because I know they're not great. I'm sure there's plenty of critiques that exist for the choreography, or really lack thereof, to the action scenes. But for me, I could at least appreciate the unapologetic silliness of it, and those fleeting moments of ephemeral enjoyment were overshadowed by hours of boredom and nonsensical, messy garbage. Narratively, this thing is as messy as it gets. I actually have a conspiracy theory that originally this was supposed to be its own generic fantasy movie, or sorry, show, that they started filming and then they got halfway through the season and then they just ran out of budget or it got canceled, but they didn't want it to go to waste. So they had these like 4 episodes worth of content that they already poured money into and they already had all the footage. So they knew they could probably sell and at least get eyes on it if they just slapped the Witcher IP on top of it, even though it had no real tie-in. So they did, like in an act of desperation, and then they like wrote in some loose Witcher lore to it, and it just doesn't work. But that's what I feel. I feel like they just made like a generic fantasy flick and then slapped The Witcher on it as the afterthought. It feels like this was just an incomplete product that got shipped out early. Like what I'm watching here is the pre-alpha. Usually when I'm ranting about something I didn't like, I'll give spoiler warnings and then talk about more specific reasons and examples from what I watched, but for this, I just don't even see the point. It's like not even really worth it, because I'm sure you weren't planning on watching it anyway. I wasn't either. I just, for some reason, got super curious as to what made this so bad that even critics were attacking it and saying it was shit. And I probably shouldn't have. This was Pandora's box that I shouldn't have even bothered opening, but I did, and I do regret it. So I'm not going to even really get into spoilers, but I would like to point out a couple of specific things that are more broad. Almost every character in the show is an elf, yet that has absolutely no difference in how they behave, how they act, or anything. It's not even elves like you're used to seeing in The Witcher. They don't act the same or anything. They're basically just humans with little pointy ears in here. And the pointy ears look like something you could have found at Party City for some of the characters. It's just, what was even the point of making them elves at that level? Like, why? It doesn't do anything, it doesn't add anything, and it's not even like an important point to the show, really, because it's not explored or done super well. Like, it's not really weaved into the narrative in any other way aside from them just basically being humans with long ears. I don't even get what the point of that was. It seems like they didn't give much thought to anything in this show, and it also feels like they didn't have a budget to do anything in this show either. It doesn't even look good. I felt like I was watching a CW production sometimes. Everything just feels like cheap. I don't know if it's just me, but I thought the visuals were really, really lacking, especially for a Netflix original here. There's absolutely times where I thought I was watching a fan project, but then the writing kicked in and I realized this is absolutely not done by Witcher fans. That much is very clear. By far the worst part is its writing, no doubt, but more specifically the writing for the characters. This is literally the first line in the show, and that sets the tone for the writing for the rest of the series. It's just so laughably bad so often, and the characters will sometimes just point blank tell you, like, this is very important to me because this, and this is how I'm feeling, without ever spending the time to build up relationships or build up these things. A good writer would be able to convey that without just point blank telling you, like almost breaking the fourth wall, like, hey, viewer, this is what you don't know about me and how I'm feeling right now, so let me explain it to you. It's just bad. Maybe that's because it's only 4 episodes, so the time constraints, it was hard to build a relationship, but to me it just feels like just general laziness as opposed to like a limitation on the amount of time they were allotted. The whole thing is just sloppy. It has nothing to do with The Witcher. It doesn't try to. I don't get the point. And I don't want to just keep focusing in on The Witcher Blood Origin specifically. I again want to, zoom out the lens here and talk about the bigger thing, the trend of taking beloved property like The Witcher and then giving it to people that don't fucking care and even openly, proudly disrespect it most of the time, like with Halo. I keep bringing up Halo because that is the gift that keeps on giving. It is applicable to so much here, and to me that is still the most egregious example of people that hated the property they were working on, tried to do something that they deemed better, and made something that is unforgivable, something unholy, just a downright sin. It is criminal how bad the Halo show was, and that's kind of where everything's going. You have the Last of Us showrunner coming out saying, death in the games were just kind of pixels, so it's going to be different in the show. And now you have Witcher Blood Origin furthering this, where it's like, The Witcher, who cares about that? We're just going to use that name and then tell our own generic fantasy story. What is the fucking point? This is like that episode of SpongeBob with how many times we have to teach you this lesson, old man. Stop giving these beloved IPs to people, showrunners, producers, heads of studios that clearly don't give a fuck about it. What do you hope to accomplish? You don't get the fans of the property. You immediately lose them. You make an enemy out of them. You also don't get the general audience because they don't care about the IP to begin with. It's not like strong enough to bring in new eyes. It doesn't have its own legs because it's relying on the safety of the IP's name, and you deliver something half-baked like this show. Who are you even targeting? Because with Blood Origin, it's not Witcher fans. It's not fantasy fans. It's what? People that have like autoplay on or something, like YouTube kids, they have an iPad and they just have random shit pop up. Like, who is this even geared towards? I don't get it. That's a question I asked with Halo because it wasn't geared towards Halo fans, and it wasn't geared towards just like general sci-fi fans either because it wasn't good enough. And now it's a question I'm asking here. Why? You have a dedicated audience with that IP. That franchise comes built in with eyeballs. So why not like make an ally out of them instead of an enemy? Show them that you actually care about it instead of bragging about not playing the games or not reading the stories that it comes from or whatever. Again, this is me talking about Halo, but I'm sure it applies to Blood Origin because clearly they have made a very public case of disrespecting the property. Henry Cavill's now no longer with The Witcher going forward after season 3. Again, why is this the norm to give this IP to people that don't like it to begin with? You're never going to get something good out of it. You just keep getting shit. More and more shit piled on top of itself in this giant septic tank of bad adaptations. And it doesn't have to be that way. It really doesn't. Like, you could absolutely just give it to people who do want to use it and make something great with it. I know it exists. So why do we keep doing this? It just doesn't make any sense to me. So yeah, I just wanted to rant a little bit today. That's really about it. See ya. I just watched the new Netflix Resident Evil show. Don't cry for me. I did this to myself. I knew what I was getting into. I made the decision to watch this show even knowing it would probably suck shit. And suck shit it did. After the embarrassing and insulting tragedy that was the live-action Netflix Cowboy Bebop show, I didn't think it would be possible for them to make the same mistake. But they did, again, with Resident Evil. It's wild to me how little they learned from Cowboy Bebop. It's like the whole company is run by people without a brain. It's just an algorithm that's malfunctioning right now. So they're just taking random properties and adapting them into bad shows. Why do they keep doing this? Isn't the world full of enough pain already? Why add more to it with these miserable video game adaptations? First the Halo show, now Resident Evil. Is nothing sacred anymore? What's next? Are they going to target Doom? They're going to release a new Doom Netflix show that's all about a high school quarterback who's a little arrogant and then gets his comeuppance when a gamer nerd steals his girlfriend. Like, I don't understand. Why adapt a video game if it's not going to have anything in common with it? Of course, the obvious, most commonly accepted answer is marketing, because these properties come with a built-in audience. But that's completely useless when that built-in audience drops the show after a single episode when it's become clear that there is nothing in common with that show and the franchise that they like. I'm not a big conspiracy theorist, but I'm starting to believe that there's something nefarious afoot here. Some kind of puppet master pulling the strings, and he is addicted to eating glue, snorting auto paint, and huffing air dusters, because they have it in their head that it's a good idea to take beloved properties and adapt them into generic schlock that is unrecognizable from the property they're supposed to be adapting. It is a formula that has proven nothing but failure so far, and yet for some reason they still seem keen on doing it. We just saw it with Halo, and now we're seeing it with Resident Evil, and the Resident Evil Netflix show is basically like if the Halo show did a fusion dance with the Dragon Ball Evolution movie. It's just a disaster. It has nothing in common with the video games it's supposed to be adapting, except for sprinkling a few Easter eggs throughout the show. That's about it. It doesn't really have any semblance of like actual connection to it. It doesn't even feel like it was loosely inspired by the video games. It feels like what they did is read a Wikipedia entry on each game and then just grabbed a few sentences from each one and then put them throughout the episodes occasionally as just a little Easter egg for audience members to find and maybe point and be like, I recognize that. But otherwise, there's just nothing in common with this show and Resident Evil aside from a few borrowed names. Let me go ahead and show you a scene that's been floating around Twitter and then explain to you the context of it, because it's even stupider when I tell you why this scene is happening. This is a spoiler. This is towards the end of the show, and it's supposed to be like a big reveal kind of situation, like shock as you're covering your mouth, recoiling in your chair, and throwing popcorn bowl over your shoulder because it's just so shocking.
What?
The song Don't Start Now by Dua Lipa starts playing here, but I can't let that audio ride or else I'll get DMCA'd. So just sing that song in your head. That's the soundtrack to this little dance number here. And it goes on for a little while. You get like a whole little Broadway play performance out of it. And, what's not to like, right? Now, this scene's obviously pretty silly. And the video games are no stranger to campiness and some fun, wacky moments. But this show doesn't really have that vibe. They play it pretty serious for the majority of it, aside from like some rogue jokes that don't really work, which if you've been on Twitter for the last day or so, I'm sure you've seen the clips floating around because people are just slamming and jamming on it. One of the jokes is about Zootopia porn, and then another one is about torrenting anime. The jokes don't really land, but I'm not here to nitpick the comedic moments. What I'm saying is the comedic moments aren't like a focal point of the show. It doesn't really try and capture the campiness. So when it comes out of nowhere with this really goofy dance scene, it's just kind of jarring. Now let me explain why this scene is happening, because maybe the context makes this taste better. Well, you see, Evelyn is being controlled by an iPad. Well, not like a sentient iPad or anything like that. It's not some rogue AI that came to life Skynet style and took over. It is a person who is using an iPad to control Evelyn, which is why she's doing this dance recital thing. Though to be honest, with how shitty the writing was, I wouldn't put it past them for season 2 to just make some kind of unhinged sci-fi plotline about AI taking over to annihilate humans. The humans are the real virus, or something like that. But yeah, Evelyn's not a robot or anything, it's just they were able to inject her with enough drugs and control her brain through the iPad. Pretty cool, I guess. I want to make it clear, I actually don't think the Resident Evil show is like the worst show ever made or anything. It's just a very generic show that borrows from a great franchise. It's pretty shameless. They should have just slapped any other name on this and it would have been received much better. They should have just called it like Zombies, Playtime is Over, or Apocalypse, Lunch Break. Just anything that isn't Resident Evil adjacent, because this really has nothing to do with the Resident Evil franchise, aside from borrowing a couple character names and references. Netflix stock is down 70% this year, and I think if they announce Season 2 of Resident Evil, it'll drop another 30%, baby. They can do it. I think it's just right around the corner. They're just one more bad video game adaptation away from just a complete and utter collapse, it feels. Of course, I'm exaggerating, but it's just so insulting that this continues to happen. There is no reason to take a video game, make a show out of it, without having anything in common with the video game. What is the fucking point? You don't get new viewers because the show isn't good enough to stand on its own two legs, and you don't get the video game viewers that like the property because the show has nothing to do with the game they like. So who's winning here? All the sides are losing. There's no fucking purpose to making a show like Resident Evil here when it has nothing to do with the games. It's like War Games taught us the only winning move is not to play. Stop making these video game adaptations. If you're not going to hire a team that's at least played the games and wants to do something with it, like a faithful adaptation, then just don't do it. That's the only way these things work. I don't think there's anything wrong with making your own universe, or your own show based on a video game universe. In fact, I prefer it. I don't want a live action one-to-one remake of Resident Evil. I would prefer if they tell their own story, but set in the universe properly, where the characters that are in Resident Evil are faithfully adapted into the show, and in the show they can do whatever they want to further the plot, but the characters just need to at least have similar personality and motivation to what they did in the game. There's no reason to just completely drastically change and rewrite characters from the game to your show. That immediately disconnects it from the video game that you're adapting. There's just no reason to do that. Halo, for example, did that with Master Chief. Master Chief never even shows his face in the games, whereas in episode 1, he immediately takes his helmet off and he keeps it off for the whole fucking show, basically. And he also has his butt cheeks out more times than pretty much any other character in any show this year. There's so much ass cheek in Halo, which is never present in the games. It's a completely different thing, and there's no reason for that. And as you can probably imagine, Halo didn't do that well. People dropped it after 1 or 2 episodes, and it just wasn't a good show in general. It's just, if you're going to adapt a video game, why not make it faithful to the video game? That'd be the whole point. There's no reason to take the name of Resident Evil and make something that has nothing to do with it. Nobody wins in that situation. Netflix fucked up, and I'm sure they will continue to fuck up because for some reason, this very basic understanding of how things work isn't registering with a lot of these Hollywood producers that are making shows based on games. It is just, there's something gone wrong here. They somehow didn't learn that lesson with Dragon Ball Evolution, or the last Airbender movie, or the Hitman movie, or the Assassin's Creed movie, or all of the fucking Resident Evil movies. Somehow they still saw all the failure in the Resident Evil live action franchise and then still made another failure with the show just to add more dog shit onto that pile of shit. It makes no sense to me. Netflix needs to stop with this, and not just Netflix, but in general, all these streaming platforms have got to stop trying to make a video game adaptation by people that don't know the property and don't want to know the property. Again, the Halo team was proud that they didn't play any of the Halo games. They outright said in their interviews, we didn't touch the games and we didn't talk about the games. And look what happened. Disaster. I imagine the same thing happened with the Resident Evil show here. If I had to wager a guess, they've had a very rudimentary understanding of the games. But yeah, anyway, just wanted to rant about this a bit since I watched the Resident Evil show. And yeah, that's about it. So yeah, call me AOL because I'm delivering news that I'm sure you already know. Netflix is struggling. I'm sure you've seen the numbers. Year to date, their stock is down over 60%. But more specifically, over the last week, they've really fallen off a cliff. Just got fucking kicked right down that giant well in 300. They went down 37% in a week. So a lot of people are asking the question, is Netflix dying? And that stock graph is looking like a heartbeat monitor about to flatline. It's not looking good. That shit's looking like Blockbuster back in the day. And a lot of people are wondering, well, what could be the cause for this incredible decline so rapidly? And naturally, everyone's turning to me to answer these questions, since I am the preeminent expert on all things shitty movie and TV show related. I have a genuine passion for horrible media, whether that be horrible games, movies, music, shows, whatever. I just love watching and consuming the worst of the worst. Things that turn other people's stomachs, make them puke, cry, and question the existence of God. I get a big smile on my face and a wet spot in my trousers. I just really enjoy it. So when people saw this happening to Netflix, they were wondering my opinion on it. Is it because all of the terrible shows and movies Netflix keeps funding? And in my expert opinion, and it pains me to do this, I'm going to have to diagnose Netflix with shitty content disease. But it doesn't mean it's terminal yet. Netflix has been funding basically anything made by someone with a pulse. And even that seems to be spotty. It feels like they're funding scripts written by fucking AI. They have a catalog of actual dog shit shovelware. Like, you remember DOSBox ROMs back in the early internet where it was just actual 30-second games that were just being uploaded to the ROM sites that were almost unplayable? That's Netflix right now. They're just this giant cum dumpster of almost unwatchable movies and shows. And it's things nobody is asking for. But they're putting a lot of money into making them for some reason. Like, they'll drop like 50 new originals on like a single weekend. Be like, hey, new on Netflix. Netflix presents The Poop That Took a Pee. And then they'll be scratching their heads like, oh, why is no one watching that one? We put a lot of money into that production. That's so weird. Why is no one watching this? It just shows that no one would ever even think to watch that Netflix is funding. Now, I want to make it clear, I don't think bad content is solely responsible for the decline of Netflix right now in terms of their stock price and all of that. I definitely think it contributes because as things get more expensive, because things are absolutely getting more expensive in our world, the first thing that people are going to cut is a service like Netflix. You know, Netflix is just a luxury to have, and it's an expensive one. It's $25 a month. So as the cost of living goes up, people aren't going to be able to justify subscribing to Netflix anymore when they're not even putting out content that they want to watch in the first place. And especially with so much competition right now, Hulu, HBO Max is kind of killing it. Even Crunchyroll slash Funimation to a certain degree, since anime is so big on streaming, and Netflix is doing a horrible job with their anime catalog with like JoJo's Part 6. God rest its soul. I know everyone's upset about that. Netflix cannot get anything right. Fucking JoJo's Part 6 has been divided up into like part releases where they released 12 episodes a few months back, and they still haven't released the next set of episodes for some inexplicable fucking reason. And they had the audacity to hype up, hey, good news, JoJo's Part 6 Part 2 might come out in 2022. Woo-hee, yeehaw! Getting sidetracked. But competition, you know, Crunchyroll, Funimation, Disney Plus. Disney Plus kind of slapping them around right now since they took all of like the Marvel shows and everything, which people are just going to idly binge forever on that service. So the thing is, Netflix just has a lot to compete with now, and the content they keep funding isn't shit that people want to watch. So their originals don't keep them there, and Netflix has really been bled dry when it comes to shows that people love, to like beloved classics. All of those have gone to other streaming platforms, so Netflix is left with just like the worst of the worst. So I definitely think that does contribute, you know, just not having any of those classic shows anymore for people to just want to watch on Netflix. Those have all gone elsewhere, while also not providing any new originals, and then still increasing the monthly subscription price is just a recipe for disaster. They've been increasing the price but decreasing the quality of content on the service. It's just really ass backwards right now. I just think they're not really sure what to fund, so they just fund everything anyway, even if it's like a student project by a 9-year-old or some shit like that, and then hope that one of them sticks. So they'll get the occasional banger like Squid Game or Arcane, but for every Squid Game and Arcane, there were 1,000 Bruise Brothers and other shows that no one has ever heard of. So yeah, the quality of content hasn't been amazing, and that's surely contributed to a lot of people deciding like, I can't really justify paying $20 a month for Netflix anymore, I'll just cancel it and stick with one of the other services. I do think that's a contributing factor. And another thing I want to just say, and I don't know how much of an effect this has, but I really feel like this whole binge model that Netflix is still just living and dying on, which is where they dump an entire season of a show all at once, is just so fucking dumb. The binge model was cool in the early days where it's like, wow, I get to watch my favorite show that I remember when I was a kid all at once. I don't have to like wait week by week. Or even like a new show, it's like, wow, all of it's out all at once. But now the novelty, I think, is completely worn off. I much prefer a weekly release of a show. And on Netflix, Arcane proved it could work. It's so much more fun and engaging to watch a show week by week because then everyone's at the exact same pace. You get to discuss it with friends, family, even online, because everyone is at the exact same pace. So you can talk about what might happen next, come up with fan theories and speculate, and it's just a lot more fun to engage with the content that way, as opposed to the binge model where they drop all 12 episodes all at once, and then you'll have some people call out work the next day in order to finish it all in one night, and then you can never really talk about it with anyone because everyone's at different places in the content. Example, Stranger Things Season 3. Third season of Stranger Things was very good, but they dropped all the episodes all at once, so some people finished it in one day, some people in 1 week. So everyone was at different places in the show, and no one ever really talked about it. When Stranger Things dropped, there was a lot of hype, and then within like 2, maybe 3 days, no one was talking about Stranger Things season 3. It just faded from everyone's memory. Whereas something like Arcane, which was on Netflix, people were talking about the entire run. Every single episode, every drop was trending on Twitter with people talking about it. It just gets people more invested in it. When you're able to discuss it with other people, it just makes it more fun. I just think that whole binge model is really counterintuitive to engagement, as well as keeping people on Netflix. I think it's really fucking stupid, to be honest. Like, if you're bleeding out. So you take your best shows and release them all at once. People finish them in one day, and then what's their incentive to stay on there? They'll have to wait another 6 months when you accidentally find another good show to fund. You know, like, why would they continue to pay for it that long? Whereas when it comes to a weekly release, Netflix does get lucky. They have another huge show like Squid Game, and they release it week by week. And then they get some people to stay longer because they're invested in that show. Like, it all just makes more sense to just do weekly releases, even just from a business standpoint. But yes, I do agree that the quality of the Netflix content hasn't been great. They've been pumping out a lot of net shits recently, and a lot of people are probably just not bothering to re-up a subscription. But Netflix is cracking down in what I believe to be the wrong area. They're just blaming everyone for password sharing, which is a legitimate problem from a business standpoint. Don't get me wrong. A lot of people share passwords. I myself am getting Netflix from Tiana's account. You know, everyone shares the passwords to their Netflix. So there is a lot of unpaying Netflix viewers. So that is a lot of money left on the table for them, but it's such a tricky problem for them to navigate because if you really come down with an iron fist, just flop your meat on the table and like villainize anyone that's ever shared a password, it's going to make it a headache to continue using the platform. So most people just won't even bother, and since there's so many alternatives, they'll just go somewhere else. So them cracking down on password sharing is going to be a really tight rope to walk. I know they've tossed around the idea of doing like a really cheap Netflix subscription that has ads with it. For people that don't want to pay the full $20 but still want to watch the content, they could do a cheap alternative but getting some ads there. Maybe that's a decent solution. I don't really know. It's not like an unheard of one. I know other services offer that. I just don't know how successful they are in that area. But again, cracking down on password sharing, like throw these people in the slammer. They shared their password with too many people. I want them fucking arrested. And like making it really like a cutthroat policy is only going to serve to damage Netflix further. So they have to really come up with like a consumer-friendly option to get people who are sharing passwords to instead pay a little bit to continue watching the content, and I don't know how the fuck they're going to pull off that balancing act. But I do think perhaps the best solution for hemorrhaging so many subscribers is just by offering better content. This is quite literally like that Twitter meme of make better content or I'm unsubscribing. That is actually happening to Netflix right now. The price of everything in the world is getting more expensive. Netflix is expensive, and most people aren't going to want to spend $20 a month for shit where they might get one good show twice a year. That's just not worth the cost. So the best thing they can do is just improve with what they're putting on the platform. And another thing that not a lot of people have mentioned is Netflix's numbers were heavily inflated because of COVID. When COVID hit, everyone went to subscribing to streaming platforms because everyone was locked at home watching shows and movies and shit like that. Now that everyone's getting back into like a normal routine in the real world, all those people are starting to cancel these subscriptions. So the numbers just got like really inflated. So maybe this is just equalizing and it's totally normal. Can't really say for sure, but what I can say for sure is Netflix has so much garbage on it that no one really wants to watch while only ever providing a couple of good shows a quarter. So that I think is a big problem for them, and the competition's getting fierce. So I just wanted to talk about this a little bit because it's an interesting topic, I think. I always find it very fascinating when there's a company that's too big to fail, starting to fail. I don't think Netflix is in any danger of closing its doors anytime soon. They still have like 220 million active subscribers, so they are still very much in the game. It's just a matter of them having a bit of a stumble here, and by a bit of a stumble, I mean they're fucking spiraling down a dirty toilet. A 65% year-to-date loss in the stock is kind of rough. But they're still fine overall. I don't think they're in any danger of dying anytime soon. So I just wanted to talk about it. That's about it. So yeah. There's no combination of words scarier than Netflix live-action anime. Just saying those words maybe put some vomit in the mouths of many of you watching. It's like audible epic hack. It is historically a disaster. And not just Netflix live action anime, but taking any anime and making a live action is always a huge risk that very rarely pays off. For nearly 2 decades, we suffered the curse of terrible adaptations, just unbearable vile stink, like Dragon Ball Evolution. God rest the soul of all spectators who were subjected to that torture. But recently, it's been kind of changing a bit, most notably with the One Piece live-action Netflix series, which many of you know I was a firm non-believer in. I was 100% R-atheism, wiggling my finger, no, actually, that gospel doesn't make any sense, you can't take One Piece and make a good live-action out of it. And how wrong I was. When I finally watched it, my heart grew 3 sizes like the Grinch, and now I do think it is possible, but with the right team in place. And that brings us to today, with me sitting in your lap, bouncing up and down, ready to share my opinion on Netflix live-action Yu Yu Hakusho adaptation. It came out a little less than 2 weeks ago, and unfortunately flew under the radar for most people. Now, Yu Yu Hakusho is an anime series I've talked about a lot for a long time. It was one of the first anime I watched along with Dragon Ball Z, and the show really kind of blew my mind. It was my first entry into darker kinds of content, I suppose, which is a really stupid thing to say now, but as a child, you had things like demons in here, which to me was like super taboo, like demons from hell? From heck? Ooh, goodness gracious. And blood? Oh, and Yusuke Urameshi, the main character, used to say things like, I'm gonna beat your ass. And I was like, ass? Doesn't he mean butt? You can't say ass on television. Oh, goodness gracious, zoinks. It was a really, important show to me. So this had massive shoes to fill, and I had no hope for it whatsoever. I had my doubts. And now that it's here, I can tell you, it's better than I expected, but it's also not amazing. So, what they did is they condensed basically 70 episodes worth of the anime into 5 episodes for the Netflix adaptation here, which means the entire narrative was doomed for failure. They had absolutely no opportunity to breathe any level of depth into the characters, so if you're not familiar with Yu Yu Hakusho going into it, you will not give a fuck about any of the really flat, non-fleshed out characters that are presented here, which is a damn shame. The plot to the show is like if you asked someone who watched Yu Yu Hakusho on Toonami when they were a kid to try and recall the most important moments of the first 70 episodes, that's what would have been spit here, just like the most notable highlight moments of it just haphazardly thrown together. So there is no actual building of character relationships at all. Things just happen immediately because they need to get to the next part. Nothing feels earned. It feels more like you're being pushed through a Yu Yu Hakusho amusement park ride and catching some of the best of highlight moments as you're going through. It's just none of the emotional weight that was present in the show, or really none of the actual building up to anything is in the show. Everything just happens lickety-split. We're moving a million miles per hour because they just didn't have a whole lot of time here. Everything is so tight, tighter than my bussy. Like, they had 70 episodes that they needed to somehow make a story for and fit into 5, while capturing all of the moments that you would want to see in live-action Yu Yu Hakusho, which, to their credit, they did do. They did have most of the biggest moments that I would have liked to see live-action. They did have them here, and they actually did look great. I'm going to get to all the compliments in a moment. I want to get my biggest complaint out of the way here. It's really just how rushed everything is. As a fan of Yu Yu Hakusho, you're going to start questioning, like, oh, yikes, why would they do that? Why is that happening? Like, they have tiddlywinks of lore from Yu Yu Hakusho that need to be there, but they're not there in the way they should be, so it just doesn't really work when taking 70 episodes and making 5 out of it. It's just, that's disastrous. But I think it's only a problem people will have if they like Yu Yu Hakusho going into this. If you didn't ever read the manga or watch the anime, I don't know how you'll respond to it. I've only mainly seen reviews from fans of Yu Yu Hakusho that have checked this out because, like I said, this flew super under the radar, so it hasn't hit like a mainstream audience that's unfamiliar with it. So right now it's mainly people like me who love Yu Yu Hakusho that are pretty disappointed that they went this direction with their plot. By far the biggest capital crime, like an unforgivable sin, is they have the Dark Tournament in the live action by like episode 3. The Dark Tournament arc in Yu Yu Hakusho, I think, is the best tournament arc in any anime ever, period. It still holds up extremely well to this day. And that's here in the live action, kind of. They skip everything except the end. So the Dark Tournament's there, and they immediately fast forward to the very end. Granted, the very end of the Dark Tournament arc is the most hype, and it's super hype in the show, but like, come on. If you're skipping all of that, you miss so much character building, so many great fights, so many great moments, and a lot of absolutely crucial, crucial character pieces. It's just, you know, a bit of a miss there to do that. But again, I get why, because they only had 5 episodes to work with. I can't help but be a little disappointed narratively from everything here. But with all of that out of the way, let me get to what I liked about it, and there is quite a bit. I think this is one of the most stylish, like, action shows I've watched in a while. I love the fight choreography here. From the very beginning, in episode 1, it becomes clear that they're trying to do something pretty special when it comes to their action. Actually, even aside from just its action, they really stylize everything in a really cool way. All of their visuals are super impressive and pretty unique. Just from the very beginning, too, like when Yusuke sacrifices himself to save the life of a child who's playing in the street and about to be hit by a truck. What I expected to happen would be following the anime where he like dives in front, pushes the kid out, and then like fade to black, you hear the car crash, and then it's his corpse. Like, no! Well, that is not how it unfolds in the live action. They said none of that Weenie Hut Jr. garbage. So what happens in live action is he pushes the kid out of the way, and he gets blasted by the truck, and they don't pull any punches on it. So you see him get hit by a truck and then get caught under the wheels. So then the truck starts bouncing over his corpse as he's like tumbling, getting all scratched up, scraped up, blood pouring out of his skull. And they never like cut away from it or use any camera tricks. It actually just looks like somebody getting hit by a fucking truck. I wouldn't be surprised if a story came out next week where they interview the stuntman that they just hit with this vehicle and filmed. It looks that realistic to me. Like, I've never seen something like that captured in that way, especially not for a live action anime. They did go hard. And even outside of just spectacular choreography, and again, the choreography really is super hype, every fight in this show is pretty gorgeous and pretty beautiful. They don't just go for standard approach to fights, they make a spectacle out of it. Like, I was blown away by just how good the fights were. And what's wild is the CGI is also pretty good. This is something I always say never works in live action because it's always going to look corny or more like an Adobe After Effects from a student project thing when you're trying to take like a spirit gun and put the spirit gun effects on it. It works in anime because, obviously, but when you have a real person and like CGI on it, that shit is always looking fucking trash. Actual dog nuts. But somehow, in here, they kind of nail it. Like the spirit gun and all of the other moves that I kind of expected to be really laughably bad looking really hit. Like, they look very good. I'm shocked at how great they were able to make the CGI look in this show. So hats off to them for that, because it didn't look corny or stupid at all when they're using some of their biggest moves, their flashiest moves that require CGI. It kind of slaps. Really, the show overall has all of these extremely tasty, flavorful ingredients that should have made for a wonderful dish, but the recipe's just kind of trash. The plot, the narrative that holds it all together. It's just taking so much and condensing it so quickly into such a short period of time. You can't really tell a good story with good characters. You just don't have time to. It's such a fucking shame, because everything else I really do think is pretty solid overall. Like, to give you another example, like, I'm, of course, still speaking from the perspective of someone who really likes Yu Yu Hakusho, so maybe these aren't complaints that someone that's never watched it will have, but the biggest one that stands out to me as like a, wow, they're really rushing this, is Ginkai gives Yusuke the orb. And in the live-action anime, it's basically no big deal. It's basically a handshake at that point. It's just like, hey, here it is. Okay, cool, thanks, Ginkai. Appreciate it. In the anime, getting to that point is no easy journey, and when Ginkai finally does give that orb, it is an extremely emotional moment that leads to a very, very, very important series of things that unfold. I'm trying not to spoil things, even though it's a super old anime. I still always recommend it, so if you've never seen Yu Yu Hakusho, definitely fucking watch the anime. But seeing a moment like that, which is such a big deal in the anime, come to life in the live action What a wet fart. Like, I can't even say it came to life. They basically necromancied it and brought back a fucking soulless husk of that moment. Like, at that point, why even include it? You could have just gone a different direction entirely. Like, I think it's just really insulting to take something like that and do it the way it does in the live action. But once again, I've said this 3 times now. This is just from someone who really likes the anime. If you've never seen it, that might not be an issue to you, and you might think that that moment in the live action is cool. I don't really know. But I really wish if they were going to do this, they gave it more time. Like maybe with 8 episodes, they could have had it breathe a bit more and offer more depth here. But 5 is just, that was never going to work. You'd need a whole season just to do the Dark Tournament arc if you wanted to follow the show in any like meaningful capacity. And I know that that's extremely expensive and was never going to happen. I just really wish they had a few more episodes to try a bit harder too. But overall, what they put out, I don't hate. Like, I actually like it far more than I thought I would. But you really have to just separate it entirely from the source material because it's basically cameos at this point. Like, it doesn't really follow the source material. They're just cameos from the source material in there, and it uses the same characters and same world. So, like I said, I think it's good mainly because it is carried heavily by its amazing action. Also, the acting I thought was really good for the most part overall. I want to mention that. I thought all of the performances felt pretty true to the characters, I will say. Like, I appreciated that. But it's carried by its action and its visuals, and I would have liked if they had a better plot around it. Even if you don't want to follow the source material that closely, I still think you could have done more to offer depth to the characters or the plot. So, yeah. Just wanted to give my thoughts on Yu Yu Hakusho live action. I think it's probably worth watching as a fan of the show or as someone who just wants to watch a really fun action show. And I'm also wanting to mention that I'm shocked we're entering an age where live action anime isn't immediately dead on arrival garbage. Like, it's not just trash anymore. The One Piece live action may have ushered in this fucking golden age of good anime adaptations. It proved that you can do it, and now we've got another one here that gets pretty close to doing something special. It just falls a little flat, losing its footing in the narrative plot department. But yeah. Anyway, that's about it. So yeah.